Hey everyone, it is February 25, 2015. I'm Rene Ritchie, and right now we're going to be talking about more Apple Watches, more Apple cars, and more things we can stick an Apple character in front of. This is the iMore Show. Joining me this week, we have very special guest star from very nice website. It's Mr. John Moltz. How are you, John?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Very well, thank you. Peter Cohen, the illustrious Peter Cohen, was not going to be able to join us. He said that he was bitten by a shark, shot by a laser beam, and then someone roofied him. And then we said, okay, fine, we'll get John Moltz to guest star. And he was out of bed and on that mic in 2 seconds.
It's true.
Yeah. I had that effect on people.
It's true. You're very charming, John.
Well, it's more like a narcotic.
That was the voice of Serenity Caldwell. How are you, Ren?
I'm doing good. It is still cold in the Northeast, although apparently it's slightly warmer than it was yesterday, so that's good.
I don't know what I'm going to RMA this cold. I'm going to send it back to the Yukon where it belongs. It's just, they said yesterday, and Peter and his wife very kindly made fun of us for this, that it was so cold the pipes were freezing underneath the Montreal streets. So our utility people tried to put electricity through them to melt them, and turns out that doesn't work. So they had no other solution. No. They walked away. We have hospitals with no water right now. It's amazing.
I liked your idea for that. What did you say? You were going to run Flash and Chrome and just set your Mac on top of it?
Yep. That's Ali Kazmuha, and I think Dexter joining us this week.
Yeah, I don't know where he went, but right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to try that Cheese Grater Mac Pro on its side, running Flash in Chrome. I figured I could get a 3-mile radius.
Probably.
We need the cold out here because we're getting record heat.
We want to send you all the cold and all the
I don't like it, actually. No skiing this year.
Oh, you can come to Canada, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, take all of the Boston snow. There's still about 7 feet. Like, there's a hill outside my window.
Wasn't it Notco
packaging it up? Doing it, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, I think a Notco was shipping it via Amazon.
Amazon drone, too, which is the remarkable thing.
All right, so interesting news week. Apple released betas for OS 10.10.3 and iOS 8.3 Part 2 betas, and they include new emoji that focus on diversity. So not only do we have 34 or 35 new flags, including South Africa and Canada, much to my delight, but we also have the new Unicode standard skin tones for emoji. This was beautiful up until the internet got their hands on it, in which point they decided that the emoji yellow suddenly was a horrible racial slur against people of Asian origin. And Apple must suffer for this. It was a fascinating story. Ren, I don't know how this goes from 0 to stupid this quickly.
Well, add one internet, specifically add one 4chan. It's not entirely surprising to me that the internet's like, oh, this is racist. But it is funny. I understand, like, the default of all of these emojis in 8.3 is the yellow skin tone. And if you don't know that, A, it's default, and B, you can change it, it starts to look really weird. Like, the little tiny faces are fine, but when you start using some of the other emojis, like the guy and the girl, or like the girl praying over her head, when those are all yellow, all of a sudden it becomes very, very disconcerting.
It's like the Uncanny Valley.
Yeah.
It's not an emoji and it's not human.
So, wait, they don't all show up. You can just pick a set to use?
The yellow one is default. You touch it, and then the other ones pop up, just like accents on the normal keyboard.
Oh, okay.
Was this troubling to you, John? Were you offended by this?
Well, I didn't. I mean, I didn't notice it at first, and then I saw the comments, and then when I did see the comments, I thought, okay. I mean, I can see how it's like my son is Asian, and he doesn't look like that. But my understanding is that this is all picked by some. Apple didn't pick these colors particularly, but it was picked by some standards board, right?
Yeah, it's Unicode, and the Asian actually isn't yellow. The Asian is pale white in the Unicode standard.
Okay, well, yeah, it doesn't look quite right. I can see why some people might object to it, but at the same time, it's not like they're running. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're doing it out of deliberate racism.
It's interesting too because other people got offended for other reasons. Like, for example, people with blue eyes felt unrepresented because all the emoji have brown eyes. The combinations are interesting because the very pale person has dark hair, the slightly less pale person has blonde hair. So Louis Mantia immediately felt, underrepresented. And then there's no bald people, Peter. There's just. Is this just something where you can't do right? You do as much as you can, and then you have to let it go?
Yep.
There's no winning.
There's no redheads, Ren.
There are no redheads. It makes me very sad.
And our friend, friend of the show, Paul Kafasis, was immediately offended that there was no right hand with middle finger extended, which is part of the Unicode standard. He actually filed a radar and blogged about it. We talked about it on Vector, and Guy English's stance was you can very easily write out the F word. You don't need the emoji. But the counter argument is that the emoji puts a smile at the end of it. It's more nuanced.
Instead of saying F you, period, F you with a gesture.
Peter,
gesture
do you miss the middle finger? Do you miss the Spock hand? Do you miss the other Unicode editions that didn't make it in?
No.
No.
No, this is a story I just don't care about in any way, shape, or form this week.
There's no goatees, Peter.
Peter doesn't like emojis.
Actually, I do. I use a lot of emoji when I'm writing stuff down or when I'm messaging. So, but honestly, it's not an imposition if an emoji isn't there. It's just, I'm a writer. I'm a painter of words. I can probably figure out a way to communicate if I need to.
But imagine the possibilities. I could tap down on French fries and get tater tots, poutine, and Pringles.
Yeah, but that's sacrificing.
It's too much work.
Exactly.
All right, so EmojiGate is not going to get out of the gate? Is that her consensus opinion on this?
Nope.
All right, so then I'm going to hand it over to Ren because there's been this huge debate about the price of Apple Watches. And we have people, like John Gruber, he talked about it with John Moltz on the talk show this week, talking about $10,000 or $20,000 watches. Our own Kevin Mitchelluk, he wants that watch to be 10 or 20 if he can possibly have it. And you pointed out the dilemma there, Ren.
Yeah, all right, so I'm still not 100% convinced that the rose gold watch is going to be 10 grand, probably closer to like 5 to 7. But humoring the general masses for a second, if we are assuming a 10 grand Apple Watch, what happens in 18 months? What happens with that Apple Watch when Apple Watch 2.0 comes out? So I wrote a kind of long, rambly piece of my various thoughts. It's like, it's weird because Apple's never been in a space where they're a technology company, and by nature, technology is replaceable every 18 to 48 months, depending on what you have, because the course of technology moves forward. Software needs faster machines, etc., etc. Watches are a little bit different than your average Mac or laptop. Watches are things that people tend to keep around for a while. I don't know very many people who are like, you know what, I'm just going to buy this Rolex for 18 months, and then I'm going to get the newest model Rolex. The only time you buy a new watch from a brand is if you want a different fashion accessory. So, on one hand, I'm like, well, I suppose that we could just look at this from the, this is the upgrade cycle for the 1%, for the people who have the money to drop 10 to 15 grand every year. But that seems wasteful to me, even if you are recycling gold and everything else. And the way that Apple describes the modular S1 chip and the way that the watch is actually built made me wonder if they're either going to offer some kind of trade-in or some kind of upgrade program, which again doesn't necessarily sound like Apple. But at the same time, none of this sounds like Apple. 10 grand for an Apple device that's not a Mac Pro, that's primarily made out of gold and a fashion statement. It's a little bit different.
My father's office bought a $10,000 Lisa back in the 80s.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah. We haven't seen prices from Apple from Apple since the 80s, basically.
But they probably used it a lot longer than someone's going to use like a watch that the software is going to go obsolete within, like you said, 18 months, and the battery is probably going to go obsolete within 18 months too. It's not like these things are going to last 50 years.
No, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way because it's like, on one hand, if Apple truly wants to sort of enter the watch space and be like one of these, we're a high cost watch option that isn't just high cost for the elite, but also and not necessarily an heirloom, but like something that parents could feel okay getting their son or daughter as like a graduation gift, or some. My sister got a really, really nice watch from my parents when she turned 18. It's like that kind of thing that I don't see how it's possible if the Apple Watch isn't either offering like a trade-in program or an update program. Some people on Twitter after I posted that had some pretty good ideas. Someone was like, well, it might be that anyone who buys an edition gets sort of a lifetime trade-in option where you pay a certain amount of money to upgrade the watch.
The edition club.
Yeah, no, seriously. Which, I mean, it's, again, doesn't necessarily sound like Apple, but we're entering new territory here. And also, it's funny because when John Gruber linked my piece yesterday, he pointed out the photo of, the thumb and the finger holding up the S1 chip. And on one hand, I'm like, yeah, that's a cool way to show, it's a tiny chip. But another, I'm like, when I first saw that picture, I thought, that kind of looks like a puzzle piece. It kind of looks like something that you should just be able to like slot in and out. And so, I don't know. We'll see in a month.
I wonder if the display could pop out too. Like if Apple keeps the form factor the same for a couple generations, like they do with a higher end Mac Pro, they could just slot in new components. It's interesting.
My friend Dave D. Fravel on Twitter suggests that we start a time-sharing business for high-end Apple Watches. Kind of like a condo, I guess, in Boca. It may not be a bad idea. Who knows? You need to impress that board member with your extraordinary fashion sense. Then spend $1,000 and rent a watch for a week or whatever. I don't know.
It's like Uber for Apple Watch.
It's like Uber for Apple Watch. Exactly. Nice pitch. So okay, great. Trade-in, sure, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't occur to me that Rolex really has a trade-in program. It's an heirloom device that gets passed either from generation to generation or sold in private sales. But it's like buying a vintage Mercedes, let's say, or something else. There's certainly a market for luxury products from Apple, I think, but I'm not sure that Apple really needs to give the market an incentive right off the bat to capture the loyalty of the people who are buying it on the extreme fringe. I just don't see that that's something that they really have to do.
So here's a wild theory. What if the Apple Watch edition is made in minuscule quantities but exists primarily as a marketing vehicle to get Apple into the luxury space so that they get onto Vogue, that they get into the Paris runway shows, that they have a product for people who drive Lamborghinis and don't care how much the price of gas is if they really want it, because they might get one anyway, and this way they get the gold one. And so you get those high-end people who really want that product. You get all the attention that comes with being in that space, but it really doesn't cost you much because most of your volume is made up for on the Sport and on the regular Apple Watch for people who want just a little step up.
Well, do you remember before the iPhone came out back in 2007, there were very high-end smartwatches that you could buy. Smartphones, right? Yeah. Exactly, that you could buy if money was absolutely no object. And didn't Bang & Olufsen have one?
You can go through, I don't remember if it was at the Win or Encore, but there's a Vertu store, and you walk through there, and they used to run Symbian, now they run Android, and they're encrusted in gold and precious jewels, and you press a button, and it's not Siri that answers, it's some poor bastard on the other end of that line who has to do whatever you ask him to do. It's like Jarvis. The original comic book Jarvis.
That's like the original
Jarvis, yeah.
Siri.
Yeah, I don't see. The thing is, I feel like Apple could go two ways on that, right? Well, where they could go down that path, they could just be like, the edition is for the folks who can afford to replace a $10,000 gadget every 18 months, no problem. It just doesn't. I don't know. It's just something about being consumer respect is not quite the word I'm looking for.
Well, like Georgia was angry, right? Like she thought it was be taking advantage of people to have a watch that expensive.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then I feel like that is a certain drumbeat from folks from folks to whom a $10,000 watch is no light investment. But maybe the edition truly isn't for us. Like maybe it is for the people who buy a $10,000 watch with no more hesitation than we buy a $700 iPhone every 18 months. Like there are plenty of, there's a huge section of the population who looks at you and me as crazy people, Rene, because we have so many editions of iPads and iPhones.
We don't have
I think
kids,
it's
though.
a market that maybe we don't understand. I mean, there's airports in Dubai that sell gold bars. Why? I don't know. Why would someone put a credit card in a vending machine and buy a gold bar? I don't know, but obviously people do it. So I think that there are people with disposable income, and then you look at our own Kevin. He wants that watch to be 10 grand. So for some people, it's a status symbol. It's an elite symbol. So I think there is a market, and people that don't want it will go for a lower end. I just think that that's a market that there's a lot of people for that market. So.
John, what are the
I
odds
already,
that this is
I
a
already,
stand-
I already know that it's not for me. No matter how long the watch lasts, I'm not spending $7,000 on a watch.
You can picture Schiller with the new gold watch every year, and Jeff Williams driving the same old Apple Sport watch for 10 years.
Yeah.
John, what are the odds that this is a psychology experiment in conjunction with Stanford, that they just want to see our reaction?
I would guess low. I think they want the money.
That tricksy Tim Cook. Yeah, I mean, it is a great way to pay for the Apple Watch's initial production. I'll say that, because you get $10,000 a unit. That's you gotta.
It's a pretty high
factor in
markup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even if the watch is solid gold, and even if they end up producing all gold bands, which they haven't yet released,
The watch isn't 60 inches across, so it's a small amount of gold. So regardless of the price of gold, they're making a lot of money off.
It's about $1,300 worth, between $1,300 and $2,000 worth of gold, depending on the estimate.
Yeah, that's
Wait, they're
big
making a
markup.
60-inch watch? That's awesome.
No.
Says the person who
Watch
won't
Pro.
even use an iPhone 6 Plus.
It's the Watch Pro, Peter. It goes on your wall.
What time is it? Time
As a
to
full
get in.
keyboard.
It's a
Put it in
full
your
QWERTY
pants
keyboard.
of holding.
Yeah.
It's a Bluetooth keyboard, John. You can.
Oh,
You know.
boy.
That goes on the other wrist.
Ren, you also linked to an article in Wearable and an article in Wired that was talking about the first generation of watch apps.
Yeah, so some developers talked to both Wearable and Wired about the various apps that they were working on, and there's a pretty a wide variety, which makes me excited. One of the things that I've been really bullish on and really looking forward to is the varied type of apps and content we're going to get on the watch when it premieres in April. And it's exciting to see that developers are kind of diving in head first, even though I know some people were a little skeptical and like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to develop, and I haven't quite found the WatchKit app for me quite yet. But I think there's some interesting stuff. I know ETA is working on an app that I'm really, really excited about. I love ETA on the phone. Clear is working on a watch app. There was a watch app for snowboarders and other winter sport people to track their winter sports because they got cranky that like Runkeeper doesn't quite do a great job tracking.
John has no use for that.
Yeah. In your land of lack of snow.
Yep.
But yeah.
Alas.
And then Wired did a whole in-depth feature on some of the health purposes and the health apps that are being worked on for the watch, and that's an entire space that I'm fascinated by and don't understand too much yet. Just because I'm not someone who necessarily needs to monitor their health daily, other than I like to know. I would love to have a device that could actually like track my heart rate and track max O2 levels and things like that while I'm working out and cross training and skating, because the Fitbit's not so good for roller derby.
Yeah. Well, and I'm intrigued with health too, because I've worn so many different fitness bands, and I would wear one specific fitness band if it was great. So to me, it's interesting from a health perspective because it opens up a whole new door of different apps that can interface with that. Now you're kind of stuck. If you buy an Up24, you're stuck in that ecosystem. If you buy a Fitbit, you're stuck in that ecosystem. Where I think Apple Watch might do something a little bit different there. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of health apps either get updated or come out that will integrate into the information that it can pull.
That's interesting to me because the iPhone for some people is a camera, for some people it's a gaming device. It has different personalities depending on what you want to do with it. And I think the watch will be like that. There'll be some people who might even get more than one watch. They have their sport watch that they just run around with, and they have the other one that they wear out to parties. But you'll have people who just want or mostly want the health aspects, and that'll be great for them. Some people will mostly want the notifications. Some people won't have access to Apple Pay because they have an iPhone 5 or 5S or 5C, but because of the watch, they'll suddenly have access to Apple Pay. Other people might want to just remote control the HomeKit stuff around their house, and some people want a combination of those things. So I think actually this is going to appeal to people on more vectors than just a straight watch, not like a straight classical timepiece could.
Vector, isn't that another different podcast?
We're just cross-referencing all the podcasts today. Rene, what is the if you could have any app, what are you most looking forward to for the watch?
So I'm conflicted on this, and we thought about talking to developers a lot about WatchKit, but then it turns out like Apple's running these labs or kitchens in Cupertino right now where they're bringing developers in and letting them work on the hardware to ensure that there are a bunch of apps that are really well done and ready for launch. And we saw the Twitter app and the Facebook app, and I think a couple airline apps back at the event in September. But a lot of other people don't have that opportunity. They're working off the simulator and they're working off just what they think is going to happen. And I'm not sure, and they will tell you firsthand that the first thing they're going to do is get that watch and try it. So I think there's going to be a two-tiered sort of release here where there are those apps that are fully baked and there are those apps that are more trepidatious, but I'm actually looking mostly forward to the core stuff that comes with the watch. I think that's what's going to occupy my time at first, and anything else will just be mostly accessed through notification. I don't imagine I'll be sitting there scrolling through my watch looking for apps very often. I'll do that on my phone. It's just when my phone's not handy and I see something come up on my watch, I'll try to triage it if I can't, but otherwise I'll hand back off to my phone really quick.
Mm-hmm. Ellie, what about you?
Repeat the question again, because I just listened to Rene and I was like, wait.
So no, yeah.
What was the original question again?
What are you looking forward to an app in particular for the Apple Watch?
Honestly, I think health kit, because I've yet to see that really do anything. I've seen a couple different health apps that are now reading and writing to health kit, which is awesome because I think it was the Jawbone Up app where I hadn't used it.
We lose Allie.
We did.
No.
Aw.
She talked about health. That was the end.
That's it.
It's Apple's secret police. They found out what she was talking about and they killed her.
They got her cut off.
What about you, John? Anything you're looking forward to?
Well, so I've been wearing I wore a watch for years, and the battery finally died like right before Christmas, and so I haven't been wearing one for the last couple of months. And the two things that I get my phone out of my pocket the most for are just to check the time and the weather. And so those two basic things, I think, being able to just do that, without having to take my phone out of my pocket, will be helpful. And fortunately, I actually started exercising again, like about last spring. So the health stuff is actually finally going to be interesting to me after just sitting around being a couch potato for about 10 years as I raised a child. So the timing is good.
For sure. Peter?
Which is also a watch pun.
Oh.
Womp womp.
A terrible, terrible watch pun.
Fire molds. God, that's hard.
That's what
I'm so glad you're here,
for.
Peter. I'm so glad you could make it, Peter.
John, if we were both wearing Apple Watches right now, I'd be trolling you with penises on mine. I honestly...
as instead of it like you do now by faxing them to me?
Exactly. To answer your question, Serenity, probably the health stuff right now. As everybody knows, I'm much more physically active than I was even 6 months ago, and much more concerned about stuff like heart rate. And the more advanced stuff is really where it gets interesting to me. If there's a way in the future, I don't expect this for a 1.0 product, but at some point in the future, if an Apple Watch can help me keep track of metrics like my blood glucose level or my blood pressure, my body temperature and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's available. That would be very cool. Heart rate, yeah, okay, heart rate is one thing that it'd be cool to know, and it'd be nice to have a more accurate idea of how I'm moving throughout the day. There's a lot more deep biometric information that I'd like to be able to access, which I can't right now, using the tools that I've got. And if the Apple Watch is something that can help me with that at some point in the future, that's going to be very interesting to me.
I'm picturing an Apple Watch that has a needle on the back of it. Just every time you strap it on, it just
I'm imagining some
seeps right into your arm, like you're Wolverine.
What about like a face hugger or a Starro?
Does it hurt when you put it on?
you guys are amateurs. I was thinking something more Cronenbergian, something that something that would
claws come out.
Something that would ooze
Wrap
and
around
pulsate as you inserted a finger.
More like
or
Mobius?
something. Right, exactly. Definitely out of heavy metal, for sure.
Nice.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to tell you about the Tie Bar. The Tie Bar is a leader in men's fashion accessories. It's www.thetiebar.com. They paid for the V, so please use the V. They're loved by GQ and celebrities alike. The Tie Bar delivers high-quality products at unbeatable prices. Whether you need ties or bow ties for work or for play, the Tie Bar has you covered. If there happens to be a wedding in your future, this is your spot, too. I love it when I can just tell Lex Friedman wrote this stuff. It's the best.
Oh, Lex.
So Rand, like I looked at this and I was thinking about it, and I immediately went to Doctor Who. I immediately went, right to the, not the recent series, not the reboot, but when bow ties were cool, like Fez's, and then I went to James Bond, and then I just started thinking, there's this whole air of, I don't know if it's 50s, 60s, 70s, it's sort of this classic air of sophistication, and I think it's nice that the internet is meeting that.
I love bow ties. They're delightful, and I liked them even before Doctor Who. It's just it's a fun little flourish. And I also, one of my roommates, my floor mates in college, would actually just wear bow ties just for fun. Like she thought that they were delightful, and they can't. You know what? At this point in time, they can be a unisex fashion accessory, and I think that's rad. And I also think they look good on dudes, so it's good all around.
Allie's laughing, but you can get Harry Potter style ties too, Allie.
Now I'm intrigued.
No, it's a nice way if you've got a graduation, if you've got a wedding, if you've got an office function, if you want to look like something out of Mad Men, something out of 007, you can go straight to the Tie Bar. And the best price, first of all, they're not limited to ties. You can get all sorts of other things, socks, belts, pocket squares, scarves, anything you need to do to look dapper, to look like you belong at the Oscars, that you belong at the Grammys, that you belong at any of those award ceremonies or more. And the best part is most products are below $20. By cutting out the middleman and selling direct to the consumer, the Tie Bar is able to keep quality high and prices low. We know this model. It's stuff that Harry's uses. It's stuff that Casper uses. It's great. They get great products, and you get delivered it right to you, and you don't have to go and put up with show floors or really creepy people trying to sell you stuff at department stores. It's terrific, and you no longer have to pay $50, $80, or $100 for a quality tie. Your tie should not have to cost as much as your shirt. So here's what I want you to do. Just visit thetiebar.com/iMore. That's THETIEBAR.com/iMore. Use promo code iMore50 by the end of February, and you get free shipping on orders over $50. That's the Tie Bar. And just remember, ties are cool.
As opposed to the Tie Bar in downtown Bangkok.
There's no Fez's. There's no the Fez Bar yet.
Yet.
We'll get there soon. All right, so moving along, we have cue the snarky comment from Auto Industries that the phone people aren't just going to walk in and take over the car business. I could have set a cooking thermometer by this. It is. Does this really, John? I'm going to go to you for this because I'm filing this under the Steve Wozniak or increasingly the Jean-Louis Gasset line of people who talk about Apple and get their thoughts published, even though if they were not the person they were, they wouldn't get published.
Yeah, I mean it's marketing, but it's dumb marketing. I mean you kind of have to stand up for your industry, I guess, and put your foot forward and say, we spent a lot of time working in this business, and it's not as easy as you think it is. Because what else are you going to do? Like say, oh my God, they're coming, run! That doesn't look so good.
I would love that video. That'd be viral.
I have public opinion, so to a certain degree, it's like what's the guy going to say when asked about Apple building a car? But on the other hand, this just happens over and over again now, and it becomes kind of like a comedy routine. Just waiting for the clown shoes to come out and for them to fall on their faces.
Apple, just keep driving.
Yeah.
I'm waiting
no
for
attention.
I'm waiting for one of them to say, all right, Apple, come on. We've been doing this for years. We know how to do this really, really well. We welcome competition. You've revolutionized a lot of industries. Maybe you can do some cool stuff here, but we're going to beat you. I mean, if you're going to be a baller, be a baller.
Yeah.
Anyone want to add on to the car pile? Any new car thoughts?
I don't know. I still hold back. I still hold by what I said last week, which is that Apple could make a car. Are they gonna?
Yeah.
I can't answer that question for like 6 years.
Right.
Because
I wouldn't be surprised if they're working on something, but whether or not it's actually going to become a real product,
Exactly. I mean, God knows. They've worked on plenty of things that have never seen the light of day, and it was very good that they never did.
I can't believe they didn't Kickstarter it now. They beat $1 billion already. It's just Apple's missed opportunities.
You gotta write that Onion article.
Yeah, they certainly need the money.
It's just it's a way to get John Williams to upgrade his car. That's what this whole thing is. It's just
Poor guy.
You gotta figure out a way to get John out of that Camry.
So underpaid.
I'm
Sure. Just scraping by.
All right, Peter, this is something that I thought was really interesting. Apple might be changing up the Genius program. So before, you could make your appointments online. You could still do that. But if you went into the store with a problem, they would just make an appointment for you. And now it sounds almost like the restaurant business where they'll triage you based on availability and priority of your problem. So if you come in and say, I'm having trouble syncing contacts, you might have to wait a while. If you come in and say, oh, my screen's broken, they might show you in like you've got chest pain.
I think that this is probably the result of the way that people are actually going to the Apple Store looking for service. I work in an Apple-authorized service provider, an AASP, an independent reseller that also repairs Macs. And it's interesting to me that when our customers call us up and ask if they can bring a Mac in, they ask if they need to make an appointment. We tell them no, because our volume level is a lot lower than the Apple Store is. And they're constantly surprised by this because they're just so conditioned that if they go to the Apple Store, they're going to need to make an appointment before they can see somebody. But a lot of people don't get that message. A lot of people continue to walk into the Apple Store thinking, I've got a problem with my phone. I'm right here at the Apple Store. I might as well go in and see. And then they take umbrage with the fact that they actually have to wait for a few hours before they can talk to somebody, or may even have to come back on a different day. So I think that it makes sense that Apple would set up a triage-style remedy for customers who are obviously in crisis, who have machines that are broken and need them replaced right away, versus somebody whose problem, it might be something that they can live with for a couple of hours or longer if necessary. That seems to make perfect sense to me.
Ren, you worked at Apple. Is that your take too?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this is really great. The Genius system in general, it's been overworked very recently. Just there are so many people who all want different problems. And there was always a notes field for Geniuses prior to this, but very few people ever filled that out when they were making appointments or making in-store appointments. So a Genius, was coming at problems blind, being like, I don't know if this is going to take me 5 minutes or 3 hours to triage. It also helps because, primarily the Geniuses are back there to deal with software and hardware problems. And anything that's like legitimately broken. If you have a question about contacts or anything like that, you're like, my contacts won't sync. That's a thing that can also be triaged by one of the other specialists in the Apple Store, including like the creatives who teach the workshops. So being able to better sort of diversify the staff to like suit each of the needs and make sure that people get in there in and out without having to wait around the store forever, which definitely happens. And there's only so much seating, and God knows when you add an Apple Watch display, there's probably going to be even less ability to really loiter around the store.
Did you triage, Ali, when you were repairing iPhones?
No, I typically did first come, first serve. The only exception to that was typically water damage, because that's a whole new bag of tricks. So that can take anywhere from 20 minutes to, 2 days to figure out what's wrong with it, depending. Very seldom did we do that. I don't know how I like that in an Apple Store. I think I would be okay with that, because I do agree with Ren to some point, but I still want the ability to walk in and have my set appointment, and I don't know if I'm understanding that differently, but I don't want to go walk around a mall for 2 hours because I don't like malls. So as long as I can keep my option of just scheduling an appointment, coming in, and being seen right then, but if it changes the way current appointments are handled, I don't think I'd be very happy with that.
It looks like you're still going to be able to make appointments ahead of time. This is just for all the people who
walk
come in the day of. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, the online is the same. And I don't know if you feel the same way as me, John, but anything that reduces the volume of interruptions to people surfing the Facebook on the iPads have to face is better.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's funny. I mean, like, I never had much of a problem with the system at the Apple Store because I know how the system works. But my wife had to go a couple times just a few months ago, and she didn't understand that you had to talk to somebody when you walk into the front, and then they'll let them know at the Genius Bar that you're there, and then they tell you like you just be in a certain spot, and somehow they figure out that that's you. And so she would just go right to the Genius Bar, and then she was ending up standing there for a long time, and because they didn't realize that she was there, and so they were pretty good. I mean, she kind of like complained about it, and they were pretty good about calling her and after the fact and like talking to her about what she felt didn't work well. So I guess it's just a good idea that they're kind of constantly questioning the way that they're. Or I don't know if they're constantly doing it, but at least they are doing it now, questioning the way that they're doing stuff. Because I think definitely some people are not getting a good experience with the way it's been working to date.
Well, that's the giant Syracusean dilemma. Is success hides problems, and the Apple Store retail stores are phenomenally successful. So what problems are keeping John Syracuse up at night about the Apple retail experience?
They should just talk to John.
They offer everything. I don't know, like they got a NAND on retainer. Get John on retainer. He would never move to Cupertino. It's just a lost cause.
I don't know after this winter.
All right, and I forgot to mention that was that's absolutely true. It was from Mark Gurman at 9 to 5 Mac, who's been following the retail story for quite a long time. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. We've been talking a lot about iOS 9, and going on now, I think it's 6 or 7 years, I've been asking for a simple Files.app. We have a Photos.app. Apple put out a Passbook.app. They put out a Health.app. They have all these repositories for all of these things, and yet Files, which are arguably important to a great many people, are still the second-class citizen, which last year were locked in app jails, and this year now have this wonderful iCloud Drive and document picker that you can access anywhere but directly from iOS. Peter's making the mouth talk in the background. Look, you have iCloud Drive baked right into your Finder. You're fine. You could care less about this. I think that it's just some people think about Files like they think about I need my report or I need that presentation, and it's harder for them to go, what app did I create that in? Do I have to go and open Byword, or do I open this or that to try and find that? They just know they want that presentation. If they could hit Files.app, hit that presentation, then just open it in whatever app they want, I think it makes the iPhone more accessible. And I think if they could build that into email attachments, all sorts of other things, I think it makes it better for people for whom even iOS is still a little bit intimidating and inaccessible.
Well, I think for some people too, maybe I remember saving a file, but I don't remember what app I had edited it in.
Or you changed apps.
What do you mean?
Like you started using one text editor, then this new text editor came out, and you started using that.
There's so many apps. So, like with Share Sheets, I'd like to be able to just have a Finder app so I can find that file and then click the Share Sheet, open in, and then see. Because I might not know that I have another app installed that handles that kind of document. So, and I think that's a problem a lot of people might have.
Yep, I agree. I want it.
I want to hear Peter.
Well, I give Rene crap about this because I think that Rene sort of perennially complains about file management on iOS the same way that Gene Munster constantly predicts that
it's my
that he's going to release that Apple is going to release an Apple Television, and I just imagine the event where it actually happens, like at WWDC this year. I just expect to see Craig Federighi on stage go, yeah, and we've got full file management in iOS 9, and turn and I see Rene just sitting there frothing at the mouth in joy.
Well, that reminds me, because Serenity and I were sitting next to Syracuse when they announced Swift, and he actually turned to Jason Snell and said, is this a fugue state? Am I actually hearing this? Am I imagining it?
Is this real life?
Are you hearing the same thing? Are you hearing the words coming out of his mouth the same way I am?
The problem with Files.app in iOS 9 is they're still writing this whole, like, we don't want people to have to deal with files. But you know what? I like files. Files are useful. I would like to be able to, when I load a Dropbox video, I would like to have an option to download it not to my Dropbox so I could, view it somewhere else on my iOS device. God forbid. Download to videos. What's so wrong with that?
Yeah, people keep saying that it's a file system. I really don't want a file system. I tried to make that super clear. A file system is not human. Most people don't know how to relate to them. I just want a repository. You hit a button called iCloud Drive or Files or whatever. This thing comes up. It shows you those same things you get in the document picker. It has a search thing so you can search for stuff. You just type something in and you find it quickly and easily. And I think it's sort of like when Marco Arment made the very first version of the magazine and he didn't want a settings button. So he did everything he could to avoid having settings and ended up making it more complicated than just having a settings button. So he ended up making settings. I think Apple's attempt to not have a file system has made it more complicated than having a repository, and they've already established that repositories work great on iPhones because every time I hit the Photos app, I get the image picker. So I just want an analog.
I should have screenshotted my inbox when iCloud Drive came out, because that would have been proof enough that it was more confusing than it was helpful. So.
Well, people wanted to know where it was, right? We kept getting emails from people, where is it?
It was, okay, I see that like some apps have access to it, but how do I have access to it? Like, where do I just see all of my things in one place without having to go through an app that I do or don't know whether or not it supports iCloud Drive? So then it was this mad hunt to find App Store apps like Documents 5 by Riaddle or something of the like that supported iCloud Drive so you could see what was in iCloud Drive. So if you don't have a Mac, that's a big problem.
I wanted to share something because people sometimes think that this stuff is silly, but we got this amazing tweet yesterday from one of our readers saying, "Yay, I've learned how to create folders on my iPhone homepage. I feel like a new woman. Do it now." We've had people write in and say, "Why doesn't Apple have a button that turns off the screen? Why do I have to put my phone down and wait for the screen to turn?" Anything you don't know is a mystery to you, and these things could be made more apparent. The affordances could be greater. That's all I'm saying.
We were standing in an Apple store waiting for a Genius appointment probably like maybe 2 years ago. And the lady standing next to us was talking to her friend, and we visibly heard her say, "I love this phone, now only if Apple would make a way for me to get my pictures off of it." So there are a lot of people that don't know basic things because sometimes we overestimate what we think people know. So, and it's not always the case.
My father was an was an IBM engineer going back to the 70s. He's been CEO of 2 companies. I had to show him he could email his photos off the iPhone just because he never thought that was how you move photos around. Like these things are not, they're not
or you could plug
problems.
it in, and people don't. Some people don't ever plug their phone into a computer.
I don't.
Fix it. Well, and I'm going back to like days before iCloud existed or iTunes Wi-Fi sync. People would come in with a broken phone or water. Have you ever plugged your phone in? And they'd look at me like I had 6 heads. Why would I do that? Well, to back up your stuff or people don't know, so you can't ever assume.
I'm going to quickly transit to the Wall Street Journal put up an article about how Apple should, why does Apple value thinness over longer battery life, cosmetics over functionality? Why don't they just make the iPhone 6 as thick as the iPhone 4 and give it double the battery life? And this is a common myth and a common misconception that's been around for a long time. So I wanted to just quickly point out that it doesn't work that way. It literally does not work that way. Because first of all, an iPhone 6 or 6 Plus as thick as an iPhone 4 would be very heavy. And Apple doesn't make thin products to make thin products. They make thin products because they feel much better in your hand. They fit in your pocket better, but they're also lighter. And when they're lighter, you can hold them up longer. You can read iBooks longer. You can watch movies longer. You can talk on iMessage or Twitter longer. And that to them is very deep-seated usability. That's a very big concern. They didn't want to make a large phone that was a brick. I have a Nokia 1020 sitting back there. I could drop it and dent concrete with that thing. It's a totally different experience. I don't hold it up for a long period of time because it's heavy. Apple very intentionally made it light because they know that if you really want to, you can add a battery pack. The same way that if you want a rugged phone, you could add an OtterBox or a LifeProof case. But you can't take that off. If they made a rugged phone or they made a double-sized Max phone like Motorola does, if you suddenly wanted a lighter phone to carry around, you can't rip half the phone off. So it is a decision. Battery life is something that you pay for with, bigger screens cost battery life, brighter screens, radios, all that stuff costs battery life. So does usability, and they chose to pay for that usability with a thinner phone. And it also, the battery is a giant insulator. So the bigger the battery, the hotter, the more heat it keeps in, the faster you have to ramp down the CPU. And they're also not RF transparent, so you have to make the radios work around them. So all that to say is that it's a bigger problem than Apple's mean and doesn't give me enough battery.
Go ahead.
No, I was just... I've long been in the opinion that I'm like, hey, Apple, you don't necessarily need to make it thinner. Just give me the same thickness that I've always had, and I'll be groovy with that. And then while I was cleaning my office yesterday, I have an iPad 4th generation sitting
Ooh,
around.
Man, it's so big.
I picked it up thinking it was the Air for a second, and I almost literally had one of these like like it's not that heavy, but I expected it to be a certain weight, and then it wasn't, and my entire body was like completely thrown off because I'm like, this thing is actually really heavy. I can't, like, the iPad Air, I can pick up with 2 fingers, and it doesn't, like, that's not a problem. You try doing that to a 4th generation iPad, you're gonna have a broken iPad on the floor.
Well, and there's the thickness difference between an iPhone 4 and an iPhone 6. And I want someone one time to take an iPhone 6 that's this thick, and fall asleep and smack it on their face. They will immediately retract ever wanting a thicker iPhone that's the size of an iPhone 6 or 6.
Even typing, when you're walking with one hand trying to type with a big phone and it's heavy, it throws off the balance. It's a multifaceted. Like they work really hard. Believe me, if Johnny Ive could have a flush camera on an iPhone 6, he would be happy Johnny. But even he understood that the usability was more important than him having a camera bulge.
The camera
thinness was always the only thing that I ever was jealous of certain Android phones over. It's like I would see somebody and I would just think, oh, that thing is so whisper thin. I would love to have that. And so the thinness of the 6 I think is great.
For most phones, the optics kind of dictate the thickness, don't they?
Yeah,
because there's no way to really. Yeah.
Yeah, cameras want depth. They want Z-axis, and unless the new technology comes along, and everyone's already researching new technologies, but that's a constraining factor. Eventually, the headphone jack will be a constraining factor. And some people say, like, how thin do you want it? As thin as the laws of physics will allow, because I can add a case, but I can't take away a casing. If Apple can get to a credit card with a hologram, I'll be super happy because that's what Tony Stark has, and I'm uber jealous.
And at what point does Apple just stop putting headphone jacks in phones and saying you use Bluetooth headphones?
At what point is it our watch, and that's powerful enough to do everything, and then creates a little virtual holographic phone? I mean, I'm all in on this future thing.
It's like CD drives and zip drives.
Being progressive is good. It's a good thing, people. Progress, yay. One other thing I wanted to rant about before we get to the fun stuff is this group called GFI, and it was picked up by a lot of outlets, which stupefied me, did a security report, and it's not a report. I don't know why it's called a report. I don't know how it got published. I don't know how it got picked up, but they basically went and listed all security exploits against all versions of OS X and put that against itemized security exploits reported against every single different version of Windows, and then made an article saying that OS X was the least secure operating system. And they used the National Vulnerability Database to make this claim. The National Vulnerability Database doesn't list vulnerabilities. It lists reports of fixed vulnerabilities from a vendor. So at best, you can say that Apple reported the most fixed vulnerabilities to this database. At worst, you could say that someone really badly wanted a number to put on a marketing slide one day. But John, I'm like I want to laugh, but I think it's the worst kind of reporting.
Well, so many of these things are done to just get attention, probably, and probably for that firm. I mean, it's like we can make we can make this report that makes Apple look like the worst, and a lot of people will click on it. One thing I don't understand is how people think that makes them look smart, and why anybody would then use their company's services, because to me it just makes them look dumb.
My guess is they sell it to PC vendors who want to put it on their bullets.
Yeah, and I think that's what that company does, right? I mean, they sell security services to IT organizations that use Windows, right?
Yeah.
So there's no harm for them to take a pot shot at Apple.
Of course not.
Yeah, it's fun because there's a couple things. So OS X and iOS are listed as one operating system where Windows is broken down by version. They don't specify that it's a database of reporting, not a database of vulnerability. Apple and Microsoft actually have very different policies when it comes to how they report. For example, they list 0 low priority vulnerabilities from Microsoft, which is really weird because everyone has low vulnerabilities. OS X and iOS have significant Unix and open source software elements. That mean a lot of other people are reporting on their behalf. It is a bag of hurt, this report. So if you see anyone citing it, please yell at them in a vicious manner. Right to their editors and demand that they do a better job. Well, I think about laughing, but then like the BBC gives out these headlines, and my mom panics and calls me and says, "Is my VAC vulnerable? Are people spying on me?" And she used to be a college teacher. She's not dumb, but she listens and trusts mainstream journalism.
Yeah. And meanwhile, sorry, go ahead.
No, it only takes CNN reporting on one stupid story to make everybody concerned about it.
Well, and the internet's made it much easier for them to report on stupid stories without fact-checking because you can do it much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And if you reblog this without fact-checking it, shame on you. You made the internet dumber.
Well, like I was going to say, meanwhile, Lenovo adds things to your computer that makes it less secure without even an exploit, because they've just baked it right into the way that they've shipped the machine, the way it's configured. It's not a specific Windows exploit. They're just adding something that's going to make it worse.
Did you see the CTO interview in New York Times today?
No.
It was horrifying. He repeated the line that they did this not to make money, but to enhance the shopping experience of their customers because they thought that additional recommendations would be of a benefit. Then he kept asking him, why didn't you fix the security? The security was reported to you long before. And he said, we chose to focus on the shopping element first. And he said, I'm going to press you on this. You were alerted to the security thing weeks before. He goes, well, we chose to prioritize something else.
Oh, my God.
It is the most horrific, it is the worst possible. I don't know how. All they should have done is come out and said, look, we fired our CTO. We've got a new operation in place. We're going to do everything we can to make this right. They didn't. They chose to they believe we were too stupid to see their crapware, so they gave us a crap interview because they still think we're stupid.
Yeah.
Horrifying. All right, on to happier things. Serenity, you did an awesome review for Forge.
Yeah, Adonit's new app. So Adonit makes. Hold on. Oh, I will get it from my box of styluses here. Adonit makes a great little tool called Jot Touch. Apparently, it's not in that box. I don't.
You need a Batman style utility belt for your stylus.
I really did. You should see the
a bandolier.
You were yelling about a spreadsheet or something.
Right now, it's just a bunch of torn up boxes with various things in them. Yeah, I made a giant spreadsheet. I think I have about 56 styluses. Those are my initial candidates, and I may get more when I post our poll of what other styluses are you using. So that's fun.
Wow.
But yeah, so Adonit makes a couple different styluses, including the Jot Mini, the Jot Pro, and the Jot Touch. And they recently came out with a free app called Forge, which I can only really describe as a storyboarding app. And, you know what? I'll pull it up. It's really cool, not only because it's a nice way to just kind of sketch out ideas and iterate on them, but the tools are actually really nice. And it's I'm notoriously picky about the tools that I use, and for a long time, as much as I was annoyed by paper and its limited export options and and the fact that you can't resize brush sizes, I stuck with it because the tools were so good. And Forge's tools aren't quite as good as paper, but they have some really nice pencil rendering. The marker is really cool and has a very nice rendering and shading. So for the people watching the live stream, there's Forge on my iPad Air. It basically allows you to start with one idea, sketch a little bit, and then swipe from the right side of the screen over to copy any of the layers from your first idea onto your second idea. So you can iterate on things. You can do pencil sketch on top of a source material, some kind of photo. Then the next iteration of your idea, you're I'm going to try actually, if I'm designing a theoretical Apple car. First one, I make a round passenger area. Second one, I'm going to make it a little bit boxy. Third one, I'm going to do a round up until the very top, and then I'm going to put a sunroof or something. It's really cool, and I see it being useful to a lot of different people. I know cartoonists in particular are getting really excited over this. My buddy David Lohr, who does scripts for radio plays and The Incomparable, got super excited, and he's like, this thing is a set designer's dream. I like it just because it allows me to kind of separate the drawing process from initial sketch to over, and then of course you've got people who do legit storyboards, people who are in the film industry, You've got people who are in industrial design and want to iterate out on different sketches. It's a really cool app, and it's free. And if you get 2 project boards to start, and then if you want more project boards, you can pay a one-time fee of $4. But it's free to go around and play around with. All the tools are free. And if you have a Jot Touch, you can have pressure sensitivity within the app. So I really dig it. I think it's a really neat app and very smooth, and I definitely recommend people play around with it.
That's awesome. Peter, you're demanding a new iPhone case a new car case for your iPhone, a new phone for your car. What are you doing again?
Yeah, so there's this division of Bandai, the Japanese company that does toys and video games and so on, called Crazy Case, and they are capitalizing on 80s sci-fi nostalgia with a few different cases designed for the iPhone 6. The first one that I saw last month was the Batmobile, the original
Tim Burton Batmobile, isn't it?
Yeah, the Tim Burton Batmobile from the first major Batmobile motion picture from the 80s. This thing was this enormous turbine monstrosity with big fins coming out of the back. Yeah, absolutely, it was amazing. And they've turned it into an iPhone case that the wheels slide out of place, so you can have access to the camera, and it lights up, and it actually displays the bat signal on the wall when you get a call. I mean, come on, how cool is that? Well, just this past week, I saw that they had introduced a new one based on the DeLorean from Back to the Future. The time-traveling DeLorean.
So great.
That Doc Brown built, that Marty McFly uses to travel back to 1955. Although they've taken it a step further, and they've actually given it the Back to the Future 2 treatment. This is the flying version.
The Mr. Fusion version.
The Mr. Fusion version with the hover wheels. It's very cool. So I was thinking a little bit about some sci-fi cars from the 80s that I would really love to see. And I think that my top of the list, my absolute top of the list, would be the Spinner from Blade Runner. It's one of my favorite vehicles ever. That's the cop car that you see Gaff driving when he picks Deckard up. It does vertical takeoff and landing. It's a Sid Mead design. It's a classic 1980s sci-fi design, and it's so classic that it ended up in other movies like Back to the Future 2 as sort of homage at that point, because it was just such an iconic figure. The only other one that I would really want to see that I just would love to get my hands on would be the Pursuit Special that Mad Max drove, which I think there's a hot chance for, given that Fury Road is coming out soon.
Oh, so great. There's so many. Speed Racer would be an obvious one. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, the Mach 5. Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah, absolutely. There are so many. Kato and Green Hornet's car. There's tons of awesome cars.
Nick Fury's car. Awesome.
I heard some requests for Kit in your comments today.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, Kit is a natural for that.
And the night automated roving robot, or car, if you prefer.
Oh man! Or how about Airwolf? We could have Ernest Borgnine audio coming out of the back of it.
Airwolf versus Blue Thunder. That would be amazing.
There we go.
I would like an Ernest Borgnine case.
Perfect.
That'd be cool.
That would.
John, I didn't ask you to pick anything, but you've been working on a lot of awesome Minecraft stuff lately.
Yeah, that's turned into thanks to my son. That's turned into.
You're blaming Hank for your
a minor specialty. Oh yeah, definitely. Blaming, thanking, a little bit of both actually. Yeah, so I co-wrote a book, and a week from yesterday, but on next Tuesday, I'll be talking about the book up in Seattle with our pal Glenn Fleischman.
Nice.
At Ada's Books. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be cool.
It's a phenomenon.
It's a nice
every
venue.
kid I know plays. It's like virtual Lego. Every kid I know plays it.
It's crazy. I mean, you're practically guaranteed that if you're someplace with a kid of that age, and my son's now 11, but he's been playing for 2 or 3 years now. And if you run into a kid that age, if you talk to them, if you're trying to think of something to talk to them about Minecraft. Chances are pretty good that you'll get a long conversation with them.
I'm not talking to you, Daddy. I built a virtual you in Minecraft, and he's way more interesting.
He actually does what I tell him to.
Yeah, right.
Pays me virtual allowance, but they can't
lets
be
me play as much Minecraft as I want.
Awesome. And where can people find out more about it?
About the event?
Both.
The book is at Peach Pit Press, and it's also available on iBooks and Amazon. And the event is, I think it's Ada's Books.
I'll throw it in the show notes.
Let me find out. Yeah, it'll be in the show notes. It'll be, yeah. SeattleTechnicalBooks.com is I guess their website. And
or just follow Glenn Fleischman on Twitter, and he'll tweet it 19
or
times.
Or just follow. Yeah, well, if you can stand the getting sprayed in a fire hose of tweets, sprayed in the face with a fire hose of tweets.
Al, you looked at the Polar Loop this week, and you had mixed feelings.
I did. I really want to like the Polar Loop because it's a really cool piece of hardware. It's one of the better designed fitness trackers I've used. Unfortunately, the software is horrible. The Polar Loop, you could technically use it without ever launching the app if you just kind of want to monitor day-to-day stuff. So anyone that wants a modest fitness tracker, you could pick one up on Amazon. I think I put a link in the article for around $75, which brings it under what a lot of fitness trackers are nowadays. You don't get the heart rate monitoring, which you get with the Fitbit Surge, the Charge HR, and a lot of the other fitness trackers on the market, and the upcoming Up 3 by Jawbone. You can buy external sensors. I've never been a huge fan of those because it's one other thing to keep track of and have to finagle with before working out. The software it hasn't been updated in a long time. I looked in the App Store. There were a lot of people complaining that their data just would like randomly disappear out of the app. I had that happen as well. So literally I tried to go back several days and I know I wore that band for 2 weeks and it had like 4 days of data. So that's a huge issue, and since it doesn't read or write to HealthKit, there's no backup. So I would expect for a band that is a pretty high quality band, I would just expect a lot more on the software side. So yeah, a little bit disappointed there.
Ouch. We're continuing our new series of columns. This week I interviewed the people who do the Baby Talk program out in Redwood City in collaboration with Stanford. And what they do is they get iPads loaded with FaceTime because FaceTime is end-to-end encrypted, which means it's HIPAA approved. And they do therapy for children ages 0 to 3 who have cochlear implants, but who live in rural areas and don't have transportation, so who can't come to the center and do it directly. And they get an hour-long appointment every week. They do it entirely over an iPad, which is easy because some of these people live in multifamily dwellings and need to find someplace quiet to go, or their schedules move around, and they can always have the iPad with them. They can take them wherever they need to go, and because it's parent-focused coaching, even if the child is being surly or disagreeable or is sick, the parent can still learn how to introduce sounds and all these different things to their children. It's a fantastic program. They've been working on a grant, but they could use whatever support is available to them. So if you go to iMore and you go to the experts column, it's up today, but it'll be available in the head bar, and I'll put it in the show notes. You check that out because I think what they're doing is absolutely fantastic. And we have another network coming up this Friday with Jim Dalrymple, who you might know from The Loop and putting up with Peter for God knows how many years now.
Yeah, we've known each other since the 90s, so, back when Nirvana was still a thing.
So that's coming up. And what else do we have coming up this week, Serenity?
Let's see.
You're doing the photo extravaganza still.
Yeah, I'm doing some photo extravaganza. I did some macro stuff yesterday. I'm working on, again, stylus roundups this week, and then starting the stylus reviews for our super roundup in the next couple weeks. So if you have stylus suggestions and you really have a stylus that you think I absolutely have to review, check out iMore this week and give us your input because that'd be helpful.
Do you use a stylus, John?
No.
No?
No.
If I see a stylus in your hand, you blew it?
Just this one.
The stylus of God.
If you see
Yeah, the special stylus.
Hey, John?
Well, I don't use a stylus because I can't draw.
John?
That's my same
why,
argument
yeah.
here. I draw like a toddler, so there's very little need for me to use a stylus.
John, I have a stylus, but it's out of the frame right now.
Yeah, his hands are under the frame. For those people listening, both
Skype,
out of frame.
Skype hang-up sound.
Yeah, I like to sketch. Actually, Serenity's been inspiring me to sketch.
No, I mean it. It's right here. I'm not being a
That's a big. Anyway, yeah, I've been using the pencil by 53 and the Jot and the Pogo, and I've been that's why I need a utility belt too because I like them all for different apps, and that's part of the thing is until Apple makes Apple Pen and PenKit, every stylus is going to be better in its own app.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, when a stylus maker makes their own app, they have incentive to make those things work especially well with one another, especially when those apps are free, like in the case of Forge and Paper.
yeah.
It's like that they exist to sell the hardware.
Peter, are you still focusing on security this week? Are you moving on?
I'll never move on from security. It's an issue that comes up over and over again. Mac users don't realize, and I'm not being alarmist here, Mac users don't realize just how open they leave themselves to infestations of adware and other kinds of problems. We see customers coming in our store literally every day with inexplicable problems with their web browsers and others. So if you've got these problems, chances are you've got an adware infection on your Mac. And you need it taken care of. The old canard about, the Macs are immune from viruses. Yeah, they are immune from viruses, but the way that malware has been written has really changed over the years, and the old rules don't apply. So just because your Mac can't get Windows viruses doesn't mean that it's immune to problems. The security is a topic that I'm going to be beating into the ground until every last Mac is secure in the world.
Yeah, there was a great How to Geek article. They went to download.com, and I think, I don't know if you saw it, John, but 2 out of the top 10 most popular downloads on CNET site had Superfish in them.
Oh, jeez.
That's
Terrific.
insane.
I had not really. I mean, I've been careful for years and had never really experienced one. And then when you get a kid though, and your kid starts using technology, then they don't really realize this. Some of the stuff that they're clicking on is not really a good idea. I mean, he wasn't going any place like Superbad because I've got the family restrictions on his old Mac, but he managed to get some sort of malware, injected into Safari that every time he clicked a button on someplace, it would take him someplace else first before it took him to the place that he was actually trying to go to. So basically, rewipe and reinstall.
That's exactly what happened to one of my kids' computers as well. I checked it out for a routine audit, and I discovered that he had Genio and InstallMac, 2 notorious adware packages deployed on there because he'd visited a website at some point or another and read something that something needed to be updated, clicked on it, and didn't think twice about it because he just thought it was, I just got to install this update, and things never worked right after that. And he was surprised when I told him. He was unaware of it, but these things are insidious. They're happening everywhere, and people should really definitely take care to protect themselves from it.
I was looking into it. It said the most common vector for adware insertion on the Mac is people going to non-Adobe sites to download Flash.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Avoid the Flash, folks. Allie, how about you? What's on deck for this week?
Lots more fitness band stuff coming up. So, like Ren, if you have any fitness bands that you would like us to review or include in a roundup, yell at me at iMuggle on Twitter, and I'll make sure I take a look at them. Other than that, lots of how-tos, as is my life. What else? Some best app roundups. I don't remember what I'm looking at this week, so I guess that'll be a surprise.
Surprise to everybody.
Surprise! Surprise to me, too. So.
Secret stuff.
Awesome. Well, then I want to first take an opportunity to thank John Moltz for joining us. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, John.
Thanks for having me.
So
Nice
if people
talking
are
to
interested in where can they find you on the internet, and which projects of yours can they look forward to?
You can find me on verynicewebsite.net. I write in various places around the web and possibly for you guys sometime soon. And I'm doing that Minecraft thing next week. That's my next thing. And
you have like 8 podcasts?
I'm that far ahead. And I've got that's right. Just started up one with Dan Morin and Guy English to talk about the TV show Arrow. That's fun, and that's mostly just an excuse to sit around and talk to 2 guys that I like about Arrow.
All right, so people can find you at Moltz on the Twitters as well, right?
And at Moltz, yes, correct.
Awesome. Allie, you said you're at iMuggle?
I was muted. Yep.
Peter, where are you these days?
I'm at Flarg, Flargh, on all the social things, and of course at iMore.com.
Serenity?
And Saturn on Twitter and Instagram, and at imore.com every day.
Nice. You can find me at Rene Ritchie. If you haven't already, go listen to John and John talk all sorts of Apple stuff on the talk show this week. It's a great episode, as is usually the case when the two Johns collide. You can find the show. We're moving the live broadcast to Wednesdays now, so you'll get it a day earlier if you want to. All you have to do is go to iMore at Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. You'll find us broadcasting live. The show will still be available in video form on demand on YouTube at youtube.com/iMoreVideo or at iTunes anytime you'd like. I want to thank all of you for joining us. I want to thank The Tie. I'm going to make sure I get the website address absolutely correct here. I want to thank thetiebar.com, THETIEBAR.com, for sponsoring the show. And once again, if you visit thetiebar.com/iMore, use promo code iMore50 by the end of February, you'll get free shipping on orders over $50. 50 is the key number there, folks. Just remember the number 50. And thank all of you for joining us. We love having you, and have a great week.
Woo!
So you don't talk Flash, John? That seems awfully discriminatory.
Well, well, the problem is we're on the Incomparable, and they already have a show about Flash.
Oh, because Snell watches
We
Flash.
wanted to talk. We were going to talk about both of them, but Jason was.
You've been screwed.
Jason said, "Well, we already got that covered." So
That's all right. Well,
So
you
I'm
guys,
like, okay,
you guys
fine.
can talk. You guys can talk Arrow, and then Rene, Guy, and I will talk Supernatural.
Yes.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I haven't watched Supernatural this season
I
yet. I've
have
been
not-
accumulating them.
I haven't gotten into that yet. I'm kind of afraid.
It's
that,
fun.
Season
Yeah.
3 and I think
Another-
3 and 4 are
I haven't the
fantastic.
time for another one.
I'm all about Crowley and Rowena. I want them to have their own spin-off.
Is that the Fate Spike spin-off that never happened, Peter? Is that the second version of that? There's so much good stuff. The last 3 episodes of Arrow have been terrific. I've been
Yeah.
really enjoying
Yeah,
it.
I haven't seen the most recent one, so no spoilers.
Well, I think it's tonight the most recent one.
No. I mean last week.
Last week's. Yeah.
So, Ren, you're an entire week behind?
I'm a week behind. I've been busy.
Okay.
Now that she sees it today.
Totally caught. And was there a Flash last night? Because it wasn't on Canadian television.
There was.
I
no,
don't think
it was
so.
it was a repeat, and there was no
What?
Supernatural either. My life sucked.
Jerkwads.
There wasn't Agent
Ah.
Carter. Though.
Yeah, I have to
Yeah.
watch that. I love Agent Carter.
The last Agent Carter, unfortunately.
Agent Carter is so good, I don't want S.H.I.E.L.D. to come back.
Yeah, I know. In a way.
You know,
although Shield had gotten better.
yeah, I see where you're going with that. It's kind of like Shield mixed with Homefront, if you remember Homefront from a
Yeah.
few years ago.
Yeah.
Howling Commandos. That's all I needed to say. Howling Commandos. John, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Rene. Always a pleasure.
Nice to talk to you all.